Okay, so here's the first part of the Satori system, and I'm starting with this part first because, well, the Zen system speaks of Satori 1, 2, and 3, and then Osho speaks of mini Satoris and how to use mini Satoris. I need to talk about something that is relevant today, which I'm going to call the pre-mini Satori. And it works like this. There needs to be an alignment between the mind and the body. And the alignment in the past was such, the mind, for example, of Siddhartha Gautama the Buddha, was such that his 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 meditation, his Vipassana meditation, had two parts to it. One part, he would sit under a tree and just be present. And then there were other things he needed to work out. And the only way he could work them out is if he got up and he walked around the tree. Now, if he walked around the tree at a normal rate, then he would go into autopilot. And he recognized that. So what he decided to do is he discovered that if he slowed down his walking, that his mind would stop. And you can do this. Just get up right now and just walk around and see how you get lost in thought. And then slow down your walking. There's a Tai Chi exercise where you walk as lightly as possible, noticing how you shift your balance of your weight from your left foot to your right foot. And your mind is off. You have to be fully present as a body. You have to be alert as a body. It's a body awakening process. Right? So what's happening now today? Well, if you think of a black circle, right, this one here, this is your mind. This is your consciousness. And where's your center? How do you find your center? You're lost in here. You're here somewhere, you're here somewhere, you're over here somewhere, you're one of these points. How do you find your center? You have no reference point. The only way to know where the center of something is to go to the extremes. So people have figured out that if you accelerate your body to match your mind, that relative to one another, right, if the mind is moving at 1,000,000 thoughts per hour, you can accelerate your body so that it is moving at a level of an intensity, at a velocity, at a complexity of such that there's a balance, there's an alignment between your body and your mind. And in that moment of alignment, you don't notice the separation. You lose the sense of separation. Because if your body's still and your mind's racing, there is no way to align them. So 2,500 years ago, the mind of Gautam was so complex that he couldn't just sit under a tree and meditate. He actually had to walk around. And that physical activity was enough. Today, you can walk slowly, and that'll help you resolve some things. But the reality is, if you can start accelerating yourself, spinning faster, or get in a car, drive faster, jump out of an airplane, go bungee jumping, take massive action. You start accelerating, and you start going faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. You get to a point where you're in the circumference, you're at the extreme of how far you can go. And when you're at the circumference of a circle, all points are aligned with the center. So it gives you a sense of being aligned with your center. Now, lots of people, they accelerate themselves to a point where they feel like they're in alignment. And because they're in alignment, they're having pre-mini Satoris. And it's like you're right there at the edge. You're standing at the window of the edge of the Garden of Eden. And the air is coming through, and maybe a butterfly flits by, and you can see the flowers, you can see the colors, and you believe that you're awakened. And then what happens is that you can't sustain that because you can't sustain taking massive action. So you fall back out of it, right? And then you need to do it again. So you accelerate, and then that gives you a taste of a pre-mini Satori, right? It puts you in a pre-mini Satori experience, and that just feels so yummy. It feels so good, but eventually your mind learns to catch up. So you have to become more and more extreme. And you keep accelerating yourself more and more and more. Now, I've put a green circle around to show you the limit of your outer world, of your environment. People will keep going and accelerating themselves. And if they pass the limits of what the environment, so if you're driving too fast, you're moving too fast, the experience you're having is too intense, you will eventually die. You'll destroy yourself. You'll destroy your body. You'll destroy your mind. So this is the danger. This is where people are getting stuck as far as taking massive action in order to feel connected, feel at one. And another thing to note is that you take some psychoactives, you take some ayahuasca, you take some LSD, any of these medicines, and they accelerate you. And so from there you can feel like you're centered because, well, this is the center, right, with respect to the larger. So you feel that you are in alignment. And what needs to be done is that, and I teach people how to do this, is that you need to find a way to accelerate yourself. So here's the step. This is my step, right? And it's not just mine. Osho talks about this, but this is something that you can discover for yourself. Is that you're somewhere lost somewhere. So you start accelerating yourself, and you're here, right? You're accelerating, and you reach a point where you recognize that you're in alignment. You're fully present. You're just not. You're there, but you're not there, right? It's like when you're dancing, and you get to a point where you don't really feel like you're moving anymore, or you're a dervish and you're whirling and whirling and whirling, and you don't feel like you're moving anymore. And then the next step to do is, rather than keep pushing it more, what you do is you start slowing it down, and you stay present. So instead of pushing outward and trying to go more, stronger, faster, bigger, better, you go smaller, less, slower, gentler. And this allows you to drop into your center, that exquisite state of feeling yourself present when you're in 100% total massive action. You let that drop down, 99, 98, 97, 50, 40, 30, 10, 9, 8, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, perfect stillness, right? So, for example, you're out, you're dancing, and then you find your center, and what I tell people to do is, find that center, now go sit outside on the rocks, and just sit there quietly, and just bring it all in. And that is what triggers a mini Satori experience. And a mini Satori experience is that when you're centered and present, it's like there's an expansion. There's like an instantaneous explosion, a bubble of your sense of presence that expands and connects with the entire universe, because there's only one center to the universe. And whenever you find your center, you are in the center of your universe. There's only one center to consciousness. There's only one silence. There can't be two emptinesses. There can't be two silences. So you find your center, and you are the universe at its center. And I'm speaking psychologically, metaphysically, right? Obviously, well, I'm going to state that my body is precisely in the middle of the universe, and that you're welcome to go measure the universe in all directions if you like, to disprove me. Everywhere you are, you're in the center. And in a universe that's infinite space, well, everything's the center. Where else can you be? There's no edge to it. You're always centered. So that's how you find your center. And what I've learned, and from my experience, and what Osho discovered, and what clearly verifiable you do for yourself, is that you master doing this. You master from not knowing where you are, being kind of lost or confused. We can do it with a medicine, without a medicine. You accelerate yourself. You get to your peak acceleration, each time trying to get there as gently and as quickly as possible, right? Doing the stop and reboot your mind breathing exercises, whatever you're doing, right? The breathing exercise number 3. Then you allow yourself to come back down, and you have a flash of mini Satori. And then you have another flash of mini Satori. You have this one riding a motorcycle. You have this one racing a car, flying an airplane, drawing, painting, making love, doing whatever it is that you do. You have as many mini Satori experiences as possible. And in the process, you notice you have to pay attention to what pulls you back out. And this will eventually add up. And there's no way of knowing how many mini Satoris you need to have. I probably have millions of them. Millions and millions, like just so many of them, hundreds of thousands of them over my life, because I've been aware of having Satori moments since I was 13. And I've been seeking them. And what I've been doing is I was seeking the mini Satori because I paid attention. What am I doing with my body? What am I eating? How am I breathing? What do I love to do? And I left on a mission when I was 40. I was having these mini Satoris on a regular experience, and I thought, wow, I wonder what areas I'm missing in. Like, I just don't know how to have a mini Satori painting. So I'm going to learn how to paint. And I don't know how to mini Satori, how to get to that. I didn't call them Satoris back then, but how to get to that space, that zone. I didn't know how to do it painting, so I wanted to paint. I did it with musical instruments. I did it with everything that I ever wanted to try. And by doing so, by being aware of what turns your mind back on, you start mapping out your mind. And this on a medicine allows you to access pre-verbal areas of your mind. Eventually, you get to a point where you're complete with all of your stories. Everything within your mind is complete. You've explored the entire range of your being, and that is what is defined as a Satori 1. When you're completely at peace and in balance with yourself. Now, I'm going to talk about this in a separate slide, but the environment that you're in makes a difference. So finding a mini Satori in the simplest, poorest conditions. You're sitting in a cave, you're in a monastery, you're in the dark most of the time, or there's a little candle in front of you. You're all wearing the same color. You can't choose what clothes you're going to eat. You can't choose your food. You get a bowl of rice or dal or lentils or whatever it is. And you don't talk to anyone. And you renounce everything. And you stay still, still, still. And then you do the walking meditations, or you jump up and down and dance, whatever it is that you do. And you can have a mini Satori within that space. I mastered having a mini Satori in the richest, most complex, yummy spaces that I could have. So this is something important to have. Having your mini Satoris in all sorts of environments and getting to know yourself, but ultimately preparing yourself, planning to have your Satori experiences in the richest, most complex place. Because when you know yourself in the richest, most complex place, remember, Satori 1 guides you to Satori 2. So the definition of a mini Satori is having a moment where you're perfectly centered, balanced, at one with existence and aware of it. So it's like a pendulum that's swinging left and right, and it's always passing through the center. And for a split second, it's at the center, but it's moving so fast. So the pendulum goes up to the edge. It goes to the extreme, and then it pauses for a split second. You can actually see the pendulum stop moving for a moment. And then it swings to the other side, right? That's the pendulum. And it's equidistant, and obviously the middle is exactly on the edge of both upswings, right? Both peaks of the pendulum. So you're going from peak experiences. This is what people chase after. They chase after money and power that allows them to have peak experiences. And then they go for more and more and more and more, right? Until they self-destruct. And here the thing is to have as many peak experiences as possible, doing things so that you can get used to peak experiences. And then you bring that down. Having the peak experiences, you want to bring it down to being present. And while you're bringing it down, you're aware of, you're exploring your mind. You're exploring your thoughts, your values, your beliefs, your feelings, your emotions, everything. And in a psychoactivated space, it allows you to have a much wider, more powerful light and lens to see what you're exploring. So Satori 1 is all about knowing yourself, not having any questions about yourself. Satori 2 is being in balance with your outer environment. Satori 3 is being in balance, in a level of balance with your outer environment where there's no distinction between the inner and the outer. So within as without, or however the expression goes, as within without, and as without within. These are the levels, and I'll discuss that higher up. But this is something that we need to get people to understand. This pre-mini Satori thing. This is where people are getting lost because they're having peak experiences, doing things, and then those get dull and boring, so they have to do something faster and faster and faster, right? I would find my mini Satori space flying airplanes, just flying a little Cessna, and find whatever gives you a peak experience. And then you have to turn your perception. Instead of looking for more things to do, you have to turn inward and find less things, less. Slow yourself down, get to zero. That's why in my breathing exercises, I give people, I say, okay, this is the breathing exercises that just blows your mind out, and you do it 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Now I want you to do it a minute 30, a minute 30, a minute 30 of exercises, and then 1 minute, 1 minute. And then eventually you should be able to stop your mind with a single breath. And then eventually you shouldn't have to do anything. Your mind should be stopping all by itself, right? And what turns it back on? Well, what turns it back on is the content of your mind. So that needs to be explored. And you explore it in the context of doing all the things you love to do. Flying your airplane, flying your helicopter, driving your car, racing your motorbike, going mountain biking, making love with your partner, doing psychoactives, doing whatever. Whatever it is that allows you to explore all the different areas, everything in your mind, until this whole area is complete. And when it's a complete no, now you're in Satori 1. And as I'll describe later, you start off in a controlled environment. That's why we have our little school of mystery, our little flowering garden, where someone can come and spend some time and have a Satori experience there. There's nothing to think about outside. You've turned off your phone, you've paid all your bills, all your food is taken care of. There's massage therapists on call. Well, I'm on call to have conversations about wherever you get lost or whatever comes up, and you clear yourself and you have your mini Satori experience. Now you have your mini Satori experience in this space, and you learn that you can just sit quietly and have a mini Satori space in a home, mini Satori experience in a home space. Then you go back home and you create that for yourself, so that your home can be a gentle, simple, beautiful place to know yourself, right? And you know yourself within your home. Then you go out into the world and you start exploring larger and larger circles. Your environment needs to get bigger and bigger. That's going to come in the next graph. I just want to give that pre-information for that, right? So that you can get to Satori 2, which is being completely in balance on the inside and on the outside. So I think that's it for this slide.